Today we're going to talk about Chapter 6, which covers stress, immunity, and disease. First, we're going to talk about your immune system. The function of your immune system is to defend your body against foreign invaders. So when cells or substances that aren't native to your own body get into your body, right? This might be something like a virus. The immune system is going to be the system in your body that kicks into drive to prevent you from getting sick or having negative consequences due to these foreign invaders. The immune system does this in two different ways, through the non-specific immune response and a specific immune response. The non-specific immune response is going to be the general responses that occur in response to any invader. So regardless of what substance, what type of cells have entered my body, the non-specific immune response is going to kick in. There's two different types of mechanisms through which this happens. The first is phagocytosis, which is the attacking of foreign particles by cells in the immune system. So your immune system sends out different types of cells to attack these particles. These two types of cells are going to be granulocytes and macrophages. So these are the cells that are going to be sent out to meet up with these foreign particles and attack them. Our other non-specific immune response is inflammation. Inflammation is when the body sends blood cells to the area of an injury. So if you sprain your ankle and it swells up really red and puffy, this is your blood cells dilating and your body sending its resources to this area in order to try and heal it. Next, we have our specific immune responses. Specific immune responses are responses that are developed in response to a specific invader. So if a specific virus or bacteria enters your body's going to engage in its non-specific immune responses, but it's also going to engage in a specific immune response in which it sends cells that are specifically developed to counteract this virus. So these will be our T cells and B cells that'll be specific to whatever invader I'm having. I have these specific T cells and I send them to fight this infection. When you come in contact with a virus, this virus sensitizes the T cells and then they acquire the specific receptors in order to recognize this invader. So this is actually how vaccinations work. When you get a vaccine, it exposes your body to a weakened or deadened form of a virus, and it gives your body the opportunity to build up this immunity to that virus or whatever disease you are being inoculated for. So when my body has the vaccine, it gets the opportunity to build up this specific immunity and then fight off the disease. Now we're going to talk a little bit about immune system disorders, or when our immune system doesn't work properly. In very rare cases, the immune system fails to develop in an individual. So this is kind of that idea of children, quote, kept in a bubble, right, or who are protected from all their outside surroundings. This is an extremely rare condition where a child's immune system will not develop, which essentially when viruses, bacteria, foreign invaders come into the body, there is no immune system to attack it, right? Our child is vulnerable to all of these diseases. Unfortunately, in these individuals, any virus or bacteria can be fatal. Another immune system disorder that we've probably all heard of before is the acquired immune deficiency syndrome, or AIDS. This is caused by the human immunodeficiency virus, or HIV, which destroys the T cells and macrophages in the immune system. So remember how we talked about our macrophages, which are cells that are part of the general response that attack invaders, and then our T cells that are going to be more specialized for specific invaders. If this virus is destroying these cells, right, as part of HIV, then our ability to fight off disease is going to be lowered, right? This virus is literally killing the cells, the parts of us that fight off the other viruses. When one becomes infected with HIV, this can progress to this AIDS, or this immune deficiency syndrome, which makes individuals vulnerable to a variety of different conditions, right? Any virus or bacteria is going to be much more severe now that I don't have the cells that I need to fight it. Kind of more everyday immune system problem is allergies, right? A lot of us have allergies to different things. Allergies happen when there is an abnormal reaction to a foreign substance that typically doesn't elicit a response, or doesn't elicit a very strong response. So, for example, something with, say, fur, right? A lot of people, you can hold your pet, you can have fur on your arms, you can breathe in, right, these particles of your pet, and nothing happens. When someone has an allergy to fur, their immune system will respond to this, right? It treats that fur or whatever particle that you're allergic to as if it's an invader, right? Your body kicks into overdrive and tries to attack this substance that, in most individuals who don't have this allergy, their body treats this substance as if it's benign. It's not something that needs to be attacked and taken care of. Lastly, in some occasions, for reasons that aren't fully understood, the immune system may start to attack its own tissue. So this is what happens with autoimmune disease. Essentially, with different autoimmune diseases, the body loses the ability to recognize some particles that are within itself as itself. So our T cells, right, or our cells that are typically used to fight off these invaders, right, our external invaders, they're going to start treating the parts that are actually native to its own body as if they're invaders. So diseases like lupus and rheumatoid arthritis, these are examples of autoimmune disease where the body has started fighting and attacking its own tissue. Next, we're going to talk about the field of psychoneuroimmunology. So this is the study of how the immune system and the nervous system and your behavior are all interrelated. Not that long ago, it was thought that they're not related, right? Our behavior, our psychology, what we think, what we engage in, what we experience, isn't going to be related to our immune system and our nervous system, right? These systems that function in us aren't really subject to these silly outside forces like behavior. However, there was a really brilliant experiment done by Ader and Cohen in 1975 that showed that actually these systems are related. So if you think back to your Intro to Psych class, right, we learned about classical conditioning with Pavlov and his dog, where if you present the dog with a meat powder, the dog and a bell, the dog salivates. Then you get to the point where the dog can associate these and he'll salivate just in response to the bell. Well, what this experiment did is it actually showed that you can classically condition your immune system. So what they did was they took rats and they classically conditioned them. They paired a conditioned stimulus and an unconditioned stimulus. In this situation, for the unconditioned stimulus, they used an immunosuppressant drug. So they injected the rats with something that actually suppressed their immune system, right? So it lowered the functioning of their immune system. They did this simultaneously with these rats drinking a benign liquid that was flavored. So this liquid isn't actually doing anything, but it's got this strong flavor that the rats, they notice it, right? So while our rats are behaviorally experiencing this taste, their immune system is being suppressed by this drug. After the acquisition, right, we pair these two things together a few times and the rats get to associate this drug or this taste with this drug their immune system is experiencing. They actually found that when they gave the rats only this solution, right, this benign, doesn't have any drugs in it liquid, it just tastes funny, the rat's immune system essentially suppressed itself, right? They experienced immunosuppression. So this really opened up the floodgates for this new field of psychoneuroimmunology, right? The idea that, well, maybe our immune system and our nervous system actually are more interrelated to our behavior than we thought, right? Which has some pretty strong implications for diseases and the causes of some of our health problems. In this field of research, which you can read about in your textbook, try to make links between these aspects, right? Between our behavior and our immune system, right? Our bodily system. And an ideal study here would show the relation between our psychological factors or our behavior, right? Or our stress, which is really what we're kind of looking at here. If our stress impacts our immune functioning, and then also if this leads to disease. So the study that we just looked at, right, we're showing that our behavior, our drinking the liquid, is actually related to our immune functioning. So when we start to look at this in humans and kind of try and look at that practical application, we're going to see if there's a relation between our stress, if that impacts our immune functioning, right? Ideally, we're going to take maybe some biological measure that shows our immune system, whether it's high, whether it's suppressed, and that also shows instance of disease. So that maybe shows that the stress is impacting this immune functioning, which is mediating the actual disease. So one of the key things that we're asking in this unit is, does stress cause disease? Right? It's been a debated topic for a long time. Tons of evidence to suggest it, but our evidence is mixed. So what's going on? One of the key models you'll see here to account for the relationship between stress and disease is the diathesis stress model. This model suggests that some individuals are vulnerable to stress-related diseases because of either some genetic component or some biochemical imbalance that's going to predispose them to these diseases. So this is saying that our genetics determine that start point, right? How vulnerable am I to something like cardiovascular disease or depression, right? This is when someone talks about diseases running in their family or they already have the biology for a condition. Your genetics and your biochemistry absolutely impact your disease. They create this start point. But then people who are already vulnerable for these conditions, that stress is going to be a bit of a mediator, right? It can maybe push them or be that trigger to actually cause these conditions that someone is already vulnerable to. This is going to account for our mixed results in in our research when we look at this, right? Does stress cause disease? Well, in some people it might, and then in some people it might not. So this genetic predisposition is going to account for that variability, right? Not everyone who's stressed out gets sick. So this biological piece is going to be that missing piece of the puzzle here. There's been a number of conditions that have been linked through research to stress, right? So when we look at the research evidence, does stress cause disease? As you can see here, right, headaches, infectious diseases, cardiovascular disease, depression. Your textbook lists a large number of other conditions. They really do show us that there is something going on here, right? It's something we need to research. It's something that isn't fully understood, but a large number of conditions have been solidly linked to stress through research, suggesting that yes, stress does in fact play a role in disease.